What's up, guys? Welcome back to Reynolds Rides. I hope you're doing well. This video is part 4 of my mods and repairs series for my 1989 C4 Corvette. Alright guys, so on this table over here we have a bunch of parts that need to go on the C4. We have weather stripping, we have shocks for all 4 corners, we have a high performance chip that we're going to install on the car, and much more. So let's get started. Alright guys, I want to start with the shocks. So in the front we have an old set of Gabriel shocks, and then I'm not sure what's on the rear, but I know that they're not Bilsteins, and I'm pretty sure that all C4s came with Bilsteins from the factory. Maybe you guys can correct me on that or confirm that below in the comments below. The car rides pretty good right now, but you know, my OCD causes me to not like the fact that there's different shocks in the front than there are in the rear, and also I have no idea how many miles are on any of the shocks on the car, so I want to get them off. As you saw on the table, I have brand new Bilsteins for all 4 corners, so this should definitely improve the ride quality and the performance of the suspension. So technically I don't want this to be a how-to video, but I will give you some detail about what I'm doing. So on the front shocks on the C4, you just have this nut that you have to take off, and then down here there are 2 bolts, one there and then one on the other side, that you just remove and the shock should come out. Alright guys, so I got the top nut off, and then I just want to give you a quick pointer on these bottom 2 bolts in case you're working on replacing the shocks on your C4. So there is a nut on the bottom side of this control arm just down here, so you want to make sure that you get a socket down underneath there, so it makes it, you know, possible to take the bolt off from the top side. Alright guys, so I got all the bolts taken out, and I should be able to wiggle this guy out. There we go. Alright, there we go. First one done. Again, I'm not sure how long this has been on there, but I don't think this is, I don't know. I don't think this is as good as a Bilstein, so I'm glad we're putting Bilsteins on. Here's a look at the new shock that's going to go on. As you can see, it's a nice shiny yellow, and the install is basically just the reverse of the removal. The new front driver's side shock is in, and it's looking good. I'm excited to road test the car and see how these feel, but now I'll get started on the passenger side. Passenger side is done. Check it out. So just as an FYI guys, the bolts on the bottom are 13mm, and then up at the top you have to hold the post up here stationary while you tighten down the nut on the top. It depends on the shock that you have, but essentially I just use this hex tool and my 17mm ratchet for this shock to tighten that nut down. On the old shock I had to hold the top, you know, slip the wrench over the top and then hold the post in place with a crescent wrench. So again, just depends on what you have, but just thought that that might be helpful information to have. Alright, now we will start on the rear. So we're here in the back of the car, and here's the shock. It's just held in by 2 bolts, one here and then one right there, and then there's one just down right there. So I'm going to take those off and get this old shock out. Old shock is out on the driver's side rear, and no idea what this is. I didn't see any sort of brand on there. This one feels a lot better than the ones up front. I'm not sure if this is a factory shock or what. Again, I think all C4s came from the factory with Bilstein shocks, but I'm not positive, so maybe you guys can comment below. Here's a look at the new one. So I'll go ahead and throw this in. So I got this shock ready to go back in. There is this plate right here that you just have to take off the old one and use it on the new one, but it's ready to go back in. Driver's side rear shock is in. These two bolts at the top are 13 millimeter, and then this one at the bottom is an 18 millimeter. It's looking good. Just got to do the other side and shocks are done. All right guys, shocks are done. Here's a look at the rears. They're both looking good. Everything's all buttoned up and torqued. And what I want to do next is install the high performance chip that I got, and then we'll go on a road test. So a high performance chip is a way to bump up the horsepower a little bit on the car. On my older cars that I've had, I've used Hypertech chips, I've used Motivation chips, and I was pleased with the results. So I thought I'd put a chip on the C4. I went with PCM of NC because I read good things about them on Corvette forum, so I thought I'd give them a try. And we'll go ahead and install this and then take the car for a ride, see how it performs with the chip and with the new shocks. Here's a quick look at the old shocks that came out of the car. So the red ones are from the front and the black ones are from the rear. I did find this sticker from one of the shocks from the rear, so it looks like they all were Gabriel shocks. I don't know much about Gabriel, so I can't say whether they're good or not. Again, the car did seem to ride pretty good, but I would expect the Bilsteins to really help the car perform a little bit better from a handling perspective, so I'm excited to see how they ride. So in order to change out the chip, I need to pull out the computer, which is located underneath the passenger side dash. And the first step is to remove this panel right here. It's held in by 3 screws, and once that's out of the way, I should be able to get up under there and see the computer. All right, so the panel is out, and this is going to be hard to show you guys, but the computer is right there. Yeah, sorry, it's tight quarters. It's hard for me to get the camera in there and get my hands and arms in there, but this right here, that's the computer. It's just held in by 2 10 millimeter bolts, so I'm going to remove those and see if I can just get it to drop down. Computer is out, and after I removed those 2 10 millimeter screws, it did just kind of drop right down. So pretty easy. I now just need to remove this panel so I can get access to the stock chip, and then we'll put in the new one. All right, the factory chip is out, and I am happy to see that it is a factory chip. Looks like, as you can see, it says Delco there, so I would assume that's a factory chip. It's just held in by these 2 clips. You just push those to the side and it'll pop out the factory chip. And then I have the factory chip plugged into the new one, and then I just kind of slide it in here and lock it in place. Okay, so the new chip is in. You can see this new chip slash module just attaches to the stock chip, and you just slide it in there and plug it in. It's really tight quarters, so I did have to unscrew some of the screws on this cover here just so I could pop it out a little bit, so I had a little more room to work. But it's in there, it's plugged in. I'm going to put this cover back on, but before I reinstall this back up in the dash, I want to reconnect the battery and make sure it runs. So we'll see what happens. All right guys, let's see if this will run. Nice. Okay, I think I will button things up and then we'll go for a ride. All right guys, so we're driving on a backcountry road, and my initial thoughts are that it does seem to handle a little better with the new shocks. I'm not going to say it's a night and day difference, but I can definitely tell that the ride is a little smoother, so that's good. As far as the chip goes, kind of the same thing. I can tell that there's a little bit of a difference. I can feel that it pulls a little harder. I can feel that the throttle response is a little bit better. So that's good news. I'm a firm believer that, you know, you have to drive the car for a few miles just to allow the computer to adapt a little bit after you've reset it. So I'm sure that it'll get better as I drive it a little bit more, but yeah, definitely can feel a difference. Again, not a night and day difference. for either the shocks or the chip. But knowing what I know now, if I had to decide to do it again or not, I definitely would. I can feel that it makes enough difference to make it worth the cost. So that's good. I'll consider it a success. Try and slow down a little bit so I can get a pull from a slow roll. Try to go down to like 25, or I guess 35. That'll be good. Okay, punch it. Yeah, you guys, I can definitely tell a difference with this chip. It pulls a lot harder. And that was nice. That was a good pull. No check engine lights. One thing I was worried about was the coolant temperature, but it's fine. This car runs so cool that I was afraid that by changing out the chip, for some reason it may mess that up, but it didn't. You just never know. All right, so I'm on a road that's kind of under construction, and I don't have a lot of runway here, but I'm just gonna do a pull from a dead stop and see how it feels. Oh yeah, that was nice. So I know I said earlier that I couldn't really tell, or I wouldn't say that the difference is night and day, and I still wouldn't say that, but I can feel a big difference, you guys. I feel like this chip was totally worth it. I don't have any plans to do any high dollar mods on this car, like, you know, long tube headers and full straight piped exhaust, and, you know, rebuilding the heads and whatever, rebuilding the engine. I don't have any plans for that. So this chip kind of allows me to keep the car the way I want it, but also get a little more power. So yeah, definitely worth it. This car has some more power for sure. That's gonna do it for the road test, guys. As I put more miles on the car with these parts, I'll give you an update and let you know how it's going. That was really fun. I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the vlog here. I feel like what we did in this video is really good content, and I want to get it out to you as soon as possible. So I have more parts to install, but I'm going to do that in part 5. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.